Into today's video. Today we're starting another challenge. I do have a large Christmas break here, so I'm hoping to get this challenge done within time. But I'm going to try my hardest. I got a lot of days off here, so I'm going to try to put as much effort in as I can to get to $500 in sales and in making product. I did have a couple of sales in between the last series and this series, but I won't count those. I'll just be counting whatever I build during this time.
Welcome back to the channel. This is the full challenge video for the $500, making $500 as fast as I can. As you guys know, I love the challenges here with my woodworking business. Just trying to do the best. Just try to keep me motivated and keep me just trying my best. So this was the challenge of making $500 as fast as I can. And this is currently day one. I was starting out with working on 3 side tables already for a custom order of $250. And then I was also working on making these new side tables. So right now what I was working on was 3 custom side tables. These side tables were about 2 feet long by just about 15 inches wide. They weren't too big, but I was going to sell them for $250, just regular trapezoid legs. As you see, I already made the legs. I really like doing these challenge videos, or this challenges series also. Just the main reason is for motivation and just to keep me accountable with my goals here and keep the business going. Second reason is to just I don't know, yeah, make more money. I'm pretty sure I wouldn't make as much money if I didn't do these challenge videos, but anyways, that's how that's going. I have a fairly decent shop here. I'm just 17 years old, but I got a nice jointer, bandsaw, table saw, other little planer, but yeah, so yeah, during the challenge, it was pretty easy and pretty good to make stuff. This was still day one. I had lots of planning to do on those 3 pieces. But yeah, the only way I advertise myself is through Facebook Marketplace, and I got this order just from posting some other side tables for sale, and then that accumulated into actually 2 more orders here. But yeah, this was the first order that I was working on. I did have to biscuit joint these just because they were just a little bit bigger. But that's all right. I mean, I'm getting a lot better at the biscuit jointing as time goes on. Like at the start, I was not very good. As you've seen too, I didn't have the planer. I was trying to biscuit joint stuff without the planer, and it was just not going very good. I had a couple of screw ups, but after that one initial screw up, I've never had a screw up after that. So far, it's been doing pretty good. But the only problem is I only have a couple of clamps. So I'm only able to do 1 glue up at a time. So that kind of slowed me down a bit, but now we're into day 2, and my go-to sander is definitely the Orbital Makita sander. That is just awesome. I also, a new tool that I recently got is that cordless DeWalt circular saw, or skill saw, I guess you could say, but that thing is awesome. It's only 5 amps, but I only have a 5 amp battery for it, but so it doesn't last a terribly long time. But before, all I had was just a little Ryobi piece of junk. Like, the thing barely lasted like 1 cut. You got 2 feet of cut. That's all. Whereas this one, I probably get 100 to 150 feet of cutting through like 2 inch, like maxing the blade without. But as you guys seen earlier too in the video, I like to use epoxy as my finish. That's because, as you get bulk orders, do it in bulk, you get it quite a bit cheaper. It doesn't actually cost as much as you think it does, especially when you're just topping stuff up, like using it as a clear coat top. But yeah, so this was now the second of the 3 tabletops that I was gluing up. And yeah, so I was happy to also get that all out of the way, and I was also building, I guess, some more tabletops. And yeah, so that was all. Everything was going pretty good at this time. I really couldn't have asked for anything. This was right after Christmas. I had quite a few orders. Everything was going really well with the business. And now it was day 3. Day 3 was also pretty good. Get some sanding. Now, I think I should clarify something with you guys. I know some of you guys are probably like, whoa, yeah, you could have made $500 in one day. All this stuff. And I make $500 in one day if I had a woodworking business like that. Yeah, I know. I was going pretty slow here through this challenge, but I just made it a goal to work about an hour a day in the shop after school. And I had basketball and stuff like this, so I wasn't able to work other days. Plus, I was editing all these other previous videos for you guys. So I got like 3 things on the go here, So give me a break. It's all right. I know this did take a little longer than expected, but the big thing that takes the longest is getting the sales. I could easily make $500 worth of product in a day, but to get the sales and get the customers, meet up with the customers, get all the sale done, that takes a lot longer. Or another big thing that takes me a while is the epoxy, because I'm only able to do 1 coat a day because it has to dry. But yeah, I mean, so I have to, and it takes about 4 or 5 coats to do that. And plus, you got other stuff. You got sanding sometimes you got to do for it, and right? But in the end, everything worked out. And it was just a nice little challenge for me, Just working an hour every night after school, hour or 2. Then spend another hour or 2 editing the video. That was kind of my system, But yeah, so we're continuing on with the challenge here. It's coming up to day 4 of the challenge. And, at this point, everything was also going pretty good. I think I was working on, I can't remember. Here's the thing. I was working on 2 other side tables at this time also that were trapezoid legs and stuff like that. And then I was also working on this custom order, these 3 for the custom order. I can't quite remember if which one was which for the epoxying and stuff right now. But what I do know right now during day 4 is I was starting on another project. I was starting on these two side tables. These were classics of mine. Like, everybody really likes this design when I posted them. I've sold quite a few of this particular design, So that's why I was making it. I mean, I only sell these, like, it's because they're basic. Like, I only sell them for about $60 each, but they barely take any time as well, and I'm able to use, for the bases, scrap wood up, usually. that's why you seen me taking apart that project that didn't really work. That was a project that, yeah, didn't go as planned. So that's why I was using that wood from that to just build like these little mini legs, kind of for these side tables. They're super basic, just three rectangles sort of thing with a thing on the top. But yeah, so that's the challenge was, yeah, going really good. You know, um, I also, one of the things you guys might be like, oh, why aren't you using a drill and stuff like this? Well, I'm using an impact here, for most of my projects. Well, that's just because all I have is this really dumpy Ryobi. Like, we got it from a garage sale, like a super trash Ryobi drill. But so that's why I'm using the impact to drill and screw. And I got these little adapters for that impact, these little drill adapters. Those work really nice. So I know it might not be the best for the impact and not completely the right tool for the job, but it works. This was now day 5 of the journey, and yeah, everything was still going pretty good here. As you can see, now I was working on another project as well. These were some old trees from my yard, or that I had laying around in my yard for a long time. If you guys are new or recognize the channel, you know that I like to use trees from my yard. Like, everything I basically use for wood wise are from trees from my yard, and I either had the chainsaw mill or whatever. But as you can see here, when I'm working on this new project, this from where these tabletops came from, or like these slabs came from, was a tree that we freehanded with the chainsaw before we had the Alaskan mill. So that meant I had to do a lot of planing. Like, it was bad. The like there were some places that were like 3 inches thick, and then some places that were just maybe half an inch thick. That was how bad it was milled with the freehanding the chainsaw mill. So that took a lot of time for me to deal with, but whatever, right? At this age, you got time, right? That was one of the things I always went with was, I know there's faster methods, but that would mean I would have to pay for my own wood, which I don't really have to pay much for my wood now because it's all freehand. But so that was good. And these were the bases I was making for these tabletops. It was quite simple, just a couple rectangles, but this time it had a shelf, which the shelf was I really like the shelf design. That's really nice to me. And if you guys have been watching the video, you also notice that I use wood fill. I make my own wood filler. Well, that's because I don't know if it's necessarily cheaper, but it's way easier to mix some up, like, just there and then. You always have sawdust around and glue, so you always have some stuff on hand. Sometimes if you buy it from the store, you run out and then you go to use it, and you don't necessarily have it. But now with making my own wood filler, I do always have it around, which is nice. this is day 6 now, and that planer really made a big difference for me. That planer was really nice to have just because, it was uh it made the wood a lot less sanding to do. That was the biggest thing, is there was way less sanding for me to do. Because, and well, being that I mill it on my own, from my yard with the chainsaw mill, it's quite rough, all the stuff I use. So having the planer there, the jointer, the table saw, getting all these nice cuts is really nice. And as you guys, I don't know if you guys know this brand, but Diablo blades, that's the best way to go with for your table saw. I find those blades, or circular saw or whatever, those blades are just amazing for ripping and the clean cut you get. And the biggest thing is it takes way less power. Like, for me, this shop is run off of an extension cord. So lots of times when I had the regular blade on there, before, the power would always blow the breaker, and just running the table saw. Now I can run the table saw the lights and the table saw and not have any issues with it. So that's a big thing to have. Is, yeah, the Diablo blades are awesome. And as you guys notice, we are now into day 7, and I actually was starting another project. Like, I don't know what was happening right now. I was just like starting so many projects, and oh, this next project was to do with some more spalted poplar. Um so a little bit more black poplar, so but it had really good looking, like, grain, like really nice looking. But the thing is that spalted poplar is usually old and punky. And yeah, that was the big thing. But I was able to use that because I cover it with epoxy. Epoxy just made it allows me to use this stuff. And I don't know. I don't know what I was totally thinking here with the legs I was making for these little tables. Like, they were, for the spalted poplar, they were very very kind of Mickey Mouse, chintzy, tiny little things, and they did not work. I was just trying to get by with some easy, simple things like that. I wouldn't use very much wood on, but they definitely did not turn out, and I am redoing them today, actually. So yeah, that's too bad that those didn't turn out, but a lesson learned. Don't a style of legs that I don't use in the future. But that's the thing too, is I always like to make my own designs. I always try to experiment with different designs and stuff. Except for the stuff I know that works. I always have stuff I know works going on, and stuff that I kind of experiment with different designs. But now you can see we're into day 8, and day 8 uh was the challenge was going really good, you know? And as you've seen too, I cover the underneath with a coat of polyurethane. I do that to just seal in the bottom of the wood so air and moisture doesn't necessarily get in there and affect the top epoxy coat. It's been working pretty good. I know people say, you got to do epoxy kind of on the bottom too. But I've had some stuff here for 6 years covered in epoxy, and it's never cracked, never done nothing yet. So that's good, And I was just getting on day 8 too. I was getting all the pieces mounted, ready to go. To attach these legs, all I usually used was just some screws and some glue, basically. That's about it. But the biggest thing too for the legs, a big place where you could save some money for your business is by finding a color of paint that works well for a lot of pieces of wood or different types of tops. Like for mine, poplar, the biggest what I used was I found that black raven. That worked great. So now I just got a big can of that, and that lasts for a very long time. And yeah, it just works really, really well. Because it saved a lot of money from that. As you've seen here too, these big pieces from that wavy chainsaw freehand mill pieces had some major cracks in it. So I tried out some green epoxy, dyed epoxy in there, threw that in there, but I had a lot more planing to do. To seal it, I just used that tuck tape. I find that tuck tape works. That's some of my favorite tape when working with epoxy. That stuff is great. I'm not a master at it. I do have to sand a lot off, like when I use it still. Like I find it sticks a little bit too much sometimes, but overall it works pretty good. As you know, we're on to day 9 of this challenge here, and everything is just going according to plan here. And so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got about I've lost track. We've got probably 10 tables on the go. Let me count. 1, 2, 3. 9. No. Yeah, 9 tables on the go right now. That's like I don't know why I had so many on the go, to be honest with you. But at this point in the challenge, I had sold those 3 side tables that I showed you that were the custom order. So that was $250 cash in my pocket right there, day 9. So that was nice to have half of my challenge complete with one order. And I had all these tables I was working on. Like I had tons of stuff. But it was now day 10, I believe. And I wanted to do something a little different. This was a day where I was kind of like, it's pretty nice out. We got some dead trees on our yard. And I was just like, let's just go try to take some of these guys down. And if you guys don't know, I use all these trees from my yard to make lumber, just little like 3-foot 2x4s and stuff like that. That's how I make my lumber. But to do this, all I had was a little Stihl electric chainsaw. But this electric chainsaw is crazy good, guys. I highly recommend this electric chainsaw. It is very, very, very good. As you see, I got about 10 logs there. This is another thing to save some money. Sharpen your own bandsaw blade with a chainsaw file. Just find a chainsaw file that fits right. I mean, it will take you about 30 minutes to do, but it is worth it. And just go the direction of the tooth. Each one has kind of like their own direction. And to saw these logs up, all I use is this little jig I made here for the bandsaw. It has a little groove, or has a groove that goes in that, like kind of like a slider thing that goes in that little groove on the bandsaw. But first of all, I just cut a 90 degree, or I just cut two sides to make sure that there were a nice 90 degree on there. And then from there, what I did was I would run it on the table saw, like just to get a groove to follow, and then I would run it through the bandsaw. I found that worked really actually quite well to to do to do this. And you actually get, these are quite small logs, like they're only about 8 inches in diameter, but you get a lot of wood from them, especially when you cut them in these small lengths. And it really helps you save money from from buying them from the store, as long as you have time to let them dry. As long as you have time, like I do, you can save a lot of money. And as you see in here, I made my own kind of little fence jig thing, and everything. This, honestly, sawing up logs like this, that's one of my favorite things, sawing up lumber like this, and kind of just being resourceful and using kind of what you have. That's what I like. And especially, that's a big thing that I focus on with my business. One thing I hate doing with my business is pouring a lot of money into it. I just, yeah, I that's something I just will never do, and try not to do when it comes to my business. As you see now, we're into day 11. Yeah, everything's going pretty good. I'm epoxying the spalted and some of the wavy chainsaw milled stuff, and I'm also finishing up on the logs that I had to cut from my yard. We don't have a big yard here. We just have about 3 acres, and about an acre of it is bush, but it's at least good bush. We got quite a bit of spruce in there. Big spruce, which we try to keep and maintain. And then we have this tall, kind of like, it gets a little swampy in some areas, which that makes these tall, skinny spruce trees. I kind of find it's a mix between the regular spruce trees and the small and the swamp spruce, because it has the height of a regular spruce tree but doesn't have the diameter. So that makes them quite prone to falling over during a big windstorm. And so, yeah, that kind of, you know, that's why we have so many come down, but it's nice just to use them like this. And but it is sad to see more and more come down every year, especially there's not as much shelter because another bush was taken down by a field at our place. So there's not as much shelter, so more and more come down. But at least we still have trees. There's still stuff we to be thankful for. But yeah, this bandsaw worked great. It is a quite a big bandsaw actually. I think it has a little extension on the arm. It's 13 inches high, but um it ripped through this. I was cutting, 6 inches through it, and it ripped. Like, you couldn't even tell it was kind of cutting. Like, it took me maybe 20 seconds to do a 3 foot long cut. But now in the challenge, I began working on a custom order. This custom order was for a tree cookie table. I had already done the tree cookie top and stuff. This was from a top that didn't really work out like I had planned. But this tree cookie table was I had to make a natural base. This is what the person wanted. The woman wanted. She wanted my customer. She wanted a natural base. So this meant I had to go out in the bush and piece together some willow and try to fit it together and chisel the bark off. And this was small. This was small, and it was going to be, I should have seen this coming earlier. It was going to be really hard to piece this together. But I just started working on it anyways. And so this was kind of the plan. There was a main kind of centerpiece willow thing. And it was about 10, like it, yeah, there was a main centerpiece, but then there was two other pieces coming off the sides. But like these angles, man, I showed very little. If I were to do this again, I think I could have made it work, but I just had to make sure to I should have taken more time on it to measure stuff out. Like I was just cutting basically random angles. Like I did a little bit of checking, or like basically what I'd do is I would just cut an angle kind of to the right size and then just put it up to the next to the uh piece and see if it fits, if it tweak it, kind of do like 3 cuts, and then hopefully you get it within 3 cuts. And I was doing lots of this with the handsaw and stuff because I had really no other tools for this except a reciprocating saw, like a sawzall. But that sawzall was massive, man. That would just take out the entire thing. Yeah, that's so hard to control. But anyways, I was just gonna try to do it right. I had it was coming all right. I mean, and I was just gonna try to dowel it. I knew it was gonna look kind of ugly, like next to each other, or like try to get the fits like where I doweled in and stuff all looking really nice. And I was just hoping like wood filler, and just sand it, carve it down, hopefully make it look good. But I never got to that stage where trying to make it look good. But yeah, the challenge just continued on. And that was my main priority at this time, was to do this piece, fit it all together. But yeah, it didn't. Like I had all the pieces pretty close to being right. But then all of a sudden, when I went to go put on the dowels, and that went all right too. So I like this was very, like, I did a little bit of measuring and stuff, but it was very kind of just, yeah, I'll just try to throw it together. Hopefully it works, kind of thing. But yeah, so I just had these little dowels and was trying to make it go right, and it did at the start, but then the mistake came later for this piece, definitely. And yeah, uh the dowels didn't quite fit right at the start, but I did manage to squeeze them in there and make them fit kind of tight, and it was day 14 by now. So we had one of the sides glued up for the stand table legs, and yeah, now it was time for the second side, but I had a lot of quite a few problems with it trying to make it fit, and I knew it just wasn't really gonna fit right. But still, the mistake comes later for this project. And I had never really worked with dowels before and stuff like this. So I was just kind of, I should have watched some YouTube videos about it first, but I don't know. We tried to do it, and try to make it work. But yeah, that's how life is, right? And especially at this woodworking shop, that's how life is. And while I was waiting for that to dry, I didn't really have much going on. I didn't want to start another big project with tables and epoxy and stuff. So this was just kind of a side project I was maybe going to try to do. I had all these scraps from this, like the slabs, the bark edge from the milling of the wood, like those logs. And so I was gonna try to make a little flower box deal, with like a frame, and then these bark edges were the sides of it. And I was just gonna try to glue and brad nail them on. So I made this frame, and then I was, gonna glue them on kind of like this and nail them on as kind of the outside. I mean, it was actually looking not, it wasn't looking too bad, but then the biggest problem was I ran out of, I ran out of these slabs, like, just about at the end. Was able to find a couple extras, though, to finish it off, but that piece is just sitting around. I haven't tried to sell it, or I'll probably just give it to my mom, to be honest with you. Like, it didn't really turn out as I planned, I thought it would look a lot better, but it is what it is, right? Just got to keep going. Then we came to coming up to day 15, and this is where the mistake happened. I thought I had everything measured out. This piece was just about done. I thought I was going to be able to, like, kind of sculpt it, make sure it all looked together and stuff, but then I miscut the legs to make it all flat. I miscut that, and boom. The whole thing was on a mega angle, and it just was trash. The entire thing got trashed. Like, look at how, oh my goodness, that thing was on such an angle. I didn't think I was going to be able to fill some of those gaps anyways, but yeah, whatever. Throw it in the wood scrap pile and move on to the next project, right? So that's when I started working on this. This was a great find in my bush. I found this stump, and it was all one. That was the biggest thing. It was all one piece. I didn't have to glue anything together. I just had to cut it to the right size with I did this using the chainsaw. I was going to be a little bit more careful because I knew this was a good I got lucky with a second chance here kind of thing with this stump and making that into a table base instead. So I had to be kind of careful with it. But yeah, that was good. So I was going to work on that. And then during this day, I also got another custom order. I did not see this one coming, but boom, then it came. All of a sudden it was there. I had not posted anything on Facebook Marketplace for a while, but then somebody reached out wondering if I could build a bench for them. This was going to be a massive bench, though. This bench was going to be 5 feet by 20 inches wide. So it was going to be a big order. But I thought I could do it. And this started on day 16 when I started building this bench. However, this bench, the price for it was $300. So that was good. So yeah, I started on this bench. However, things didn't go as planned for this entire build. I already was starting with one piece kind of quite a bit bigger than the other. But that was kind of life. So, yeah, so I started on this build. Big order. But the thing is I needed to make this straight because I was going to biscuit joint these two things. And this was too big for my planer because like this was 5 feet long, right? So this was going to be, or joiner, I'm sorry, joiner. This was going to be too big for the joiner. So I had started planing here all my stuff, and as I started planing, yeah, it went pretty good. And I was also dealing with this during the time I was building this bench. I was also dealing with this tree stump from this custom order for the tree cookie, and I made sure to be a little bit more careful with cutting this all up and making sure it was right. It wasn't perfect because I did do it with the chainsaw, but I was able to make it quite a bit better by using the hand planer, the hand power planer. That's another good tool that I suggest if you're getting into these big projects. I do like it. It does get a little bit kind of rough. Like it's very hard to get the same exact flatness. But for these small projects and a bit of sanding, it works really well. So yeah, I was able to get that all done and kind of ready to go. And I started, yeah, it was all coming together. This was now coming up to day 17. As I told you before, these were 5 foot long and I couldn't use my joiner. So I had to make a homemade track saw. This actually worked pretty well, I'm not gonna lie. This was going working, yeah, like a charm actually. Working like a charm. This little sort of track saw that I made, one side of the slab was going to be flat and one side was live edge. So, but this is where bad things started happening. My planer completely busted on me. Oh no. The belt kept flying off. Like there were problems. Like I tried tightening everything, tried to play around with it. And the biggest issue was the one piece was way thicker than the other, and that's why I needed the planer, so I could have a good glue up. But whatever, I was just gonna have to go and try my best to do it with the hand planer. so that's what I did. I tried to do it with the hand planer. It wasn't perfect, but I was like, yeah, we're just gonna have to try to do it. So that's what I did here, and I did borrow some clamps from my grandpa because this was a big glue up, and it took everything I had to do this. Like I was really cranking on these clamps because for some reason there was big gaps because this glue up was like the thicknesses varied a lot because I was just using that little Mickey Mouse hand planer thing, but in the end I did manage to get it done. That was good. I really thought that glue up was not gonna go, but in the end it did. I did not, yeah, I just thought it was not gonna work out, but I was wrong. It did. So yeah, we got that all done, and I was very happy because that was the only two pieces I had that big that would work for this project in width and in length, that were dry. the other stuff wasn't dry for a while, and I had only the customer wanted it quite quickly, and I wasn't gonna be able to, and I was already kind of falling behind on the project too. Because I had to wait. Some of these pieces of wood were in the snow, and I had to wait for them to kind of dry as well. So yeah, I just had to go for it right then and there, right? The glue up, and it ended up working out, even though I didn't have a planer. But then I started working on the legs here. It was quite a simple design. I was planning on putting in a shelf as well on the legs, so that was good. I found the shelf really, because it was 5 feet long, right? So I wanted one piece, like I didn't want to have to put three of these boxes in there, so I decided to um make it really uh kind of thick, like, or make the shelf to just give a lot more stability, like make it a lot kind of a bit thicker. And I put those little pieces in there too. Just my mom is kind of my painter for this thing, so, and she hates it too when there's these big gaps when doing the shelves. So that's why I tried my best to not make all these gaps, and so that's why I did that. I also had to chisel this big tree stump. So that kind of got a little bit, I don't know, that was a big project, getting in all those nicks and crannies and stuff, but in the end I was able to get it looking pretty nice in my opinion. But yeah, so that's how that went. And so I originally planned to use this nice piece of wood kind of for the shelf on this bench legs from a pile. But this, or from a nice piece of spruce that I had. But this piece of spruce was way down in this big pile. Like, I have some massive piles of wood here, and it was gonna be tough to get it out. But then I did quite a bit of work to get this out. Like, it was more kind of engineering a way to get the weight on one side, get some wedges in there to free it up. But I was able to get that, and I cut it all down, centered it all up, put it in the bench. Boom. The bench is wobbly. Because this board wasn't quite straight, it had a little twist in it. And I didn't have my planer. My planer was still out of commission at this time. Like, it was getting bad, man. Like, my planer was done. So I was like, oh man, and I had no other pieces big enough. So I found this piece of plywood. Like, this piece of plywood was pretty junky, but it worked. So yeah, I was just glad that it worked. And I was able to make like this, like, I had to do 2 sections of it, but you can barely notice it now. And now that bench looks great. So yeah, that is the story of, I sold that bench right away too for $300. So that brings my total to $550, completing the challenge. Thank you guys for watching. And well, there's another little clip. But thank you guys for watching, and please subscribe, like, and comment, and hopefully you enjoyed the video, and hopefully you enjoy videos to come. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is the end of the challenge. I officially hit the $500 mark, and well, we actually surpassed it by $50. We're at $550. That's because I sold the bench legs there, or the bench, that quite big bench there, for $300. And we also sold the 3 side tables for $250. So that's awesome. We hit the $500 mark. It took a little longer than I wanted, but we did it. So I know this is the end of the challenge, but I'm going to continue making videos. I don't want to really do the challenges sort of part as much. I'm going to maybe make some more tables to sell, maybe that. But one part I want to kind of focus on more is doing like more kind of bushcraft, and also maybe just trying different projects. Like we got lots of wood here. Maybe let me know in the comments anything you want me to try to build here, because we got all this wood here. Got no plans for it really. Maybe we can build a massive shed or something, right? Maybe something like that. Let me know in the comments. But here we go. Here's today's video. Here's what we're going to be up to today. First of all, we have this piece all nice and sanded up now. How does that look? That looks pretty nice, eh?